Chardon, hey true crime fans, welcome back to another episode of Chardon, hey true crime. We are your hosts. I am Dakota, and with me this week is lovely CM Addams.
Greetings
Welcome
and
back.
salutations.
Hello. Tonight we have got a long one for you, but before we get started, I think it is important to let everyone know that this is actually going to be our last stream. Now, that's not a bad thing. We have decided to take this show on a different path. We are going to be focusing entirely on the podcast aspect of this show. And in doing so, we are going to be bringing you more content from every case we decide to cover. So when it comes to Henry Lee Lucas, as we were supposed to start covering next week, Henry Lee Lucas is now going to be a full season of Chardonnay True Crime. There's just so much content to deliver to you guys. And like, even with Charles Manson, as I was writing the episodes, it just felt so short. It just felt like there was so much information we could cram into these episodes about this guy. And I started doing that because I kept finding so much. And I finally took a step back and I was like, I'm making like 2-3 hour long episodes. Like this is too much for one stream. Like we need to really be able to focus on these different aspects of these cases that we're covering. So we decided it would be in the best interest, not just for ourselves, but for the show in general, to sort of take this away from the streaming aspect and bring it to the podcast aspect.
Which, don't worry, you'll still be able to see our lovely faces if you need to follow us on our social media. And
Absolutely.
you can still see us. You don't have to see us to hear us.
Maybe we'll
we'll
do some lives randomly here and there. We're also going to be expanding our content structure. We're going to be bringing more than just murders and cults. We're going to be bringing stuff like cryptids and conspiracy theories and aliens and all kinds of that cool stuff.
All the spooky shit.
All the spooky shit. Just girl shit. Just girl shit.
Yes. Just girl shit. Hashtag.
Absolutely. Yeah, right. That's going to be our new hashtag. Hashtag just girl shit.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyways, thank you for watching this stream. Thank you for always having something fun to say in the chat. And, next time you hear us, it will be on your favorite podcast platform. Stitcher, Apple, Pocket Casts, wherever you listen to podcasts, that's where you will find us.
Yes. Pretty exciting.
It is exciting. I feel like this is it's a really good step in the right direction for this show because I love this show. This show was my COVID baby. Mm-hmm. And then I got to do like so much more with it.
Right. And I'm really happy that, I got to climb on board when I did because, true crime's just always been an amazing fascination. So it's just kind of nice to have that passion, having an outlet for it, I suppose.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So without further ado, let us bring you to the final episode of Charles Manson on our final live stream.
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh boy. And this is going to be a long one, just FYI.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Alrighty. So last time we talked about the creation of the family and the events that led up to and the events of August 8th, 1969. Tonight we're going to talk about the events of August 9th and 10th, 1969 and everything after that. In the early morning of August 9th, 1969, at about 4 to 4:30, Steve Shannon, a delivery boy for the LA Times, rode his bike up to the driveway of 10050 Cielo Drive and noticed a wire hanging over the gates of the house. He thought that was odd, but put the newspaper into the mailbox and rode away because he had papers to deliver. And about 8 a.m. he's a kid, you know? And I tried to find more information about him online and I couldn't find anything. So I assume he went on to have a typical Hollywood childhood in the 60s. I don't know. That's just what I assume. Whatever that means.
I guess so.
Yeah. At about 8 a.m., the
Anyway.
housekeeper of the property arrived at the house, and she also noticed the wire hanging over the gate and was afraid that the power was out. When she got to the house, she noticed the white Rambler in the driveway, and since overnight guests came occasionally, she didn't think too much of it and continued on into the house. She went into the house through the back and decided it would be a good idea to call someone about what she assumed was a downed power line. But in reality, it was the telephone line. She walked further into the house after discovering the kitchen phone was out. From the kitchen to the dining room, where she found 2 trunks that hadn't been there the day before and towels, all of which appeared to be covered in blood. She couldn't see anything in the living room because of the large couch that blocked the view of Sharon Tate and J.C. Sebring's bodies, but she could see what looked like reddish splashes everywhere. She could also see the front door of the house and the fact that it was open. There were more splashes on the walkway and a body. Now, from where she's standing, I was unable to find out if it was Abigail Folger's body or Wojciech Warchowski's body that she was seeing, but it was one of the two since they were the ones that were on the lawn.
Right.
Yeah.
And like any other normal person,
yes,
that would see something like that.
Mm-hmm.
She ran screaming out of the house. I'd like to think anybody in that situation would.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, so she ran screaming out of the house, went down the driveway, only then noticing the body of Stephen, parent. She ran further down the hill and into a neighbor's house where she just pounding on the door, screaming hysterically, you know, because, I mean, you just saw many, many murders, many tragedies until they called the police.
Reportedly, what she was screaming was just blood, murder, bodies over and over until someone listened to her.
Right, because, I mean, she was probably in hysterics because, you know, that's just not something that normally happens.
No, she was so hysterical, the police actually ended up having to take her to Cedars-Sinai to get a sedative.
Wow.
Yep.
Poor thing.
Yeah. Now, obviously, this is a police investigation in 1969, so it's not going to be as, I would hope, put together as an investigation today. But the scene at Cielo Drive was handled so ridiculously that I do need to mention a couple of the more egregious things that are documented in the book Helter Skelter. There was a bloody fingerprint on the manual mechanism to open the gate at the bottom of the driveway, and a patrolman pushed the button. And when asked about why he pressed it after noticing the fingerprint, his reply was, "I had to get out of there." So dude saw a bloody fingerprint and pushed it. And when they were like, "Why did you do that?" he was just like, "Well, I had to get out somehow."
Oh my God.
Bruh.
Just throw a wrench in the whole thing. Like,
bruh. That's not the only thing, though. No, evidence was actually moved around in the house. A pair of glasses was moved from a trunk to a desk, and there were 3 gun pieces, like a hand grip, and I think it was just like a couple of pieces of a hand grip that moved around the living room throughout the day.
Right.
One of them was actually even just kicked under the sofa because it was, you know, someone like stepped on it and then they were like, "Oh, what the fuck?" and just like kicked it under the sofa.
God, were they all like on crack or something? My God.
Yes.
Everybody's on crack in the story.
The fucking LAPD. And not only that, the sheriff's department had a hand in, you know, the 2 cases, or they were handling the case of Gary Hinman. And despite all of the evidence pointing that these two cases were connected and subsequently were connected to the LaBianca case, the LAPD would not work with the LA Sheriff's Department. They refused.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
That is insane.
That is just
it's like you
pure
think if
ego.
people would just cut the bullshit and like stop fucking around, like how many more cases just could have gotten handled better or quicker, I suppose.
This is literally the epitome of fuck around and find out.
Yep. And they fucked around and they indeed found out.
Not to mention, the reporters got to the house before the homicide detectives did.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I am not surprised at all. That's still pretty much like to this day, like fucking pizza delivery drivers will get to your house faster than the police.
Absolutely, because police drivers have repercussions if they don't do their job.
Right. What do you mean, delivery drivers?
That is what I mean. Anyways, so what's happening? While all of this shit show is going on, what is happening with the family?
The reports of what had happened in the night were coming out. The Manson family were happy to learn that their plan to disrupt the normal lives of Hollywood, get everybody in a ruckus, and the general public were just, went to their plan. It worked.
Yeah.
So, but however, the police didn't make the connection that the Manson family wanted them to know that the crime was connected anyway to like the Black Panthers. Like, I guess they just didn't make that connection. So that was like the one piece of their plan that just didn't fall through. Which, I mean,
yeah, they're dumb.
Kind of for good reason. Because that wasn't them. It wasn't the Black Panthers, but
no, exactly. I meant the Manson family is dumb.
Right. Yeah. So
They
it's just
thought
like
if they painted the word "rise" on the wall in blood, then the LAPD would be like, "Oh, rise! That is the Black Panthers." Mm-hmm. That is what happened here. The Black Panthers strike again.
I mean, if they're gonna kick evidence under a couch, I'm not gonna assume they're very smart. They're not gonna make. Yeah.
No, absolutely not. No. Now, not everyone was pleased, though. It's been reported that Charles was not happy with how quickly the situation had gotten out of control. So he had them plan on going to another house that night and doing the same thing again. And the house, it was soon decided, would be next door to the house that the family had gone to a party at in 1968. And unfortunately, this was the house of Lino LaBianca and his wife, Rosemary. Now, not only were they going to be going to this house, but Charlie was going to be going along to ensure that everything went the way that he wanted.
Oh my gosh.
So why don't you go ahead and give us a little rundown on the LaBianca family?
So, Lino LaBianca was a very wealthy man who had at one point run one of the grocery stores his father owned. So, he was in a pretty good high position, but had distanced himself from the grocery business and switched to breeding and racing racehorses. Pretty nifty, Lots of people.
I mean, do you know how much money a good thoroughbred racehorse can get?
Oh yeah, and it's still a very wealthy business to this day. Like I overheard one of my coworkers like a few nights ago talking about he just for the hell of it went to a horse race and bet some money. I don't know if he won, but Yeah. So it's a very prosperous business.
It absolutely
Meanwhile,
is. But to specifically buy a horse, a thoroughbred racehorse, to buy one, you have to be prepared to spend between $100,000 to $300,000, and that's not including all of the upkeep of owning a horse. Horses are
Right.
expensive. I have worked around horses. I've been around horses my entire life. I know what it takes to take care of a horse. Like, holy balls, he had money.
Yeah. And his wife Rosemary, who boutique carriage, so, they had double income. So it's like you already have horse racing, which is
horse money,
a lot of money, and then she owns a freaking dress shop. So it's like, they're just forking in the dough.
Oh yeah. They hadn't lived in the house for very long, had they?
No, I believe in 1968 they moved to the house that Lino had grew up in, and he just, he bought it from his parents. It was 3301 Waverly Drive, and throughout around that time, 1969, Lino and Rosemary were starting to notice some things wrong in their home. They returned home to find their dogs outside. When they had left them inside, they noticed items in their home were missing, and then later revealed that the family had creepy crawled their house along the others in the neighborhood.
So, for anyone that isn't aware, creepy crawling was when members of the family would go into someone's house when they were either sleeping or not there. They would rearrange their furniture. They would help themselves to food out of the kitchen. They sometimes would even take showers. They would, steal small things that they were sure the occupants of the house wouldn't notice. They were basically violating these people.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's a very common thing. Like, I think one of the most iconic stories is actually about a woman living in a guy's house for, like, I want to say for about a year without him even knowing.
Oh, the Japanese lady?
Yeah.
Yeah, that story freaks me out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hate that story. Anyways.
Anyway.
So on August 9th, 1969, the LaBiancas, along with Rosemary's daughter from her first marriage, Susan, drove to Lake Isabella to pick up Rosemary and Rosemary's 15-year-old son, Frank, who was spending a week vacationing with a friend. Earlier in the week, Lino had gone up to the lake and dropped off his boat for Frank and his friends to use. And Frank was having such a good time that the LaBiancas decided to let him stay another day and returned to Los Angeles with his friend's family. So the LaBiancas and the family of the friend leave. They leave Frank and his buddy up at the lake, and they're like, "Don't worry, like we'll drive home ourselves. It's totally fine." The parents left the car for Frank and his buddy, so the family drove back with the LaBiancas. So around 9 p.m., Lino, Rosemary, Susan, and the family left Lake Isabella and headed back to Los Angeles. On August 10th, 1969, at about 1 a.m., the LaBiancas arrived in LA. After dropping off Susan at her Los Feliz apartment and dropping off Frank's friend's family, talk about the triple alliterative there. They stopped at a newsstand on the corner of Hillhurst and Franklin. Lino, who was a regular customer, was recognized by the newsstand owner, John Fokianos, who readied a copy of the LA Herald Examiner Sunday edition and a racing form. The two briefly discussed the Tate murders, which had occurred the previous night, and talk of the recent murders disturbed Rosemary. Fokianos was the last person, aside from the killers, to see the LaBiancas alive. After arriving home, Rosemary retired to the bedroom, while Lino fell asleep in the living room while reading his sports page.
Oh boy, we're already set up for disaster.
So much disaster.
Yep, so the four murderers plus Leslie Van Houten and Clem Grogan went for a drive to the house, and then when they got there, according to Susan Atkins and Linda, Manson disappeared to say that he had tied up the house's occupants. Then Watson, Krenwinkel, and Van Houten went in. So Watson claims in his autobiography that Manson went up alone, but then returned to take him up to the house with him. Mm-hmm. And then Manson pointed to Lino sleeping through a window, and the two entered through the unlocked back door.
Lock your doors, people. Some fuckery was lock your doors.
Please lock your doors. You think people would learn, like, from what's his face, the New Orleans killer? I'm trying to remember. I think the Axeman. Yeah. Like, I think the whole thing with him was like he would purposely go to houses where the doors were unlocked, and he would go in and kill them. But if it was locked, he was like, "Oh, this means I'm not welcome here," and then would leave. And it's like something so simple.
I think you're thinking of Richard Chase. The Axeman didn't say that. Richard Chase said that.
Oh, he didn't?
Yeah. Richard Chase, he would look for unlocked doors, and if he found one that was locked, he was like, "Oh, I'm not welcome here." The Axeman was the one that said if everyone has like jazz music.
Oh yeah, jazz music.
Yeah, then I won't kill them. Yeah.
Yep. You're talking about Charles Manson.
Give me 1 minute. I'm going to switch my internet really fast because it's kind of glitching on me.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Just hold 1 minute, please.
We'll be right back, y'all. So.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Alrighty. Sorry about that. Sometimes my internet decides to take a little nosedive. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah. All right. So, So, Charles Manson and Tex Watson awoke the sleeping Lino LaBianca on the couch in his living room at gunpoint. Lino was assured by the two men that he would not be hurt and that they only intended to rob him. Charles then removed a leather strap from around his neck and had Watson use it to tie up Lino's hands. They then asked if there was anyone else in the house, and he told them that his wife Rosemary was in the back bedroom. Charles went up to the bedroom and awoke Rosemary. He allowed her to put a dress on over her nightgown before leading her into the living room where Watson had Lino tied up. Charles and Tex reassured the couple that they wouldn't be hurt and that they were just being robbed. And after collecting all of the cash in the house, Charles ordered Tex to take Rosemary back to her bedroom, where she was placed in the bedroom with a pillowcase over her head. He then wound a cord around her head and gagged her with the lamp cord and told her to stay quiet and remain in the room. He then returned to the living room, where Charles then left the house, and within a few minutes, Leslie Van Houten and Patricia Krenwinkel entered the residence and were instructed by Tex to go to the bedroom.
Oh, geez. So, unfortunately, Watson had other plans and began steadily, only stopping briefly when Lino literally started screaming, "Stop stabbing me!" And Rosemary, hearing that, began screaming and flailing around in the room. And, with the pillowcase over her head and hearing her husband being,
murdered.
Yeah, murdered. Watson for help. And then Watson left Lino, who was just very badly bleeding, on the living room floor, and then entered the bedroom to find Rosemary swinging the lamp still attached to the cord, just flailing around. Then Tex lunged forward and stabbed her until she fell to the floor. Whew. So by the time the stabbing ended, Watson, Krenwinkel, and Van Houten stabbed Rosemary 41 times. Jeez.
Now, Lino was still alive when Tex came back from the living room, and the stabbing resumed. After Watson finished stabbing Leno, one of the family members carved the word war into his stomach. Patricia Krenwinkel then stabbed him a number of times and left a carving fork protruding from his stomach and a steak knife from his throat, both things that she took from the couple's own kitchen. God. The girls then wrote messages in Leno's blood. Death to pigs and rise were written on the living room wall, and Helter Skelter was written and misspelled on the refrigerator door.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whew. Again, not very bright.
No, definitely not. I actually have a picture of it's hard to see the picture, but I have a picture of, the different things that they wrote in the blood. If you are interested, what do you think? You want to see it?
Yeah, sure thing.
Alrighty, so this one, I'm trying to get a bigger picture of it. Hang on. Okay, this is about as good as it's going to get, I think. Yeah, it's hard to read because, again, these pictures were taken in 1969,
Right.
But here we go. Helter Skelter. Helter spelt with an A. Healter, Skelter.
Yeah. Jeez. I don't even know what to say to that. Just wow.
Yeah, they're not the best and the brightest. I'll give you that.
Nope.
They are disaster people.
Yeah, so not only are they not the brightest,
no,
but after, this vicious stabbing,
yeah,
the family members, some ate food from the refrigerator, played with the couple's dogs, and then even showered before hitchhiking back to the Spawn Ranch, which, God, I feel bad for those dogs. Like, oh my God.
Those dogs are like, why do you taste like blood?
Oh my gosh, like, oh, don't worry about it, Fluffy. Come here, let's go play fetch. But I don't trust you.
I don't want to play fetch.
Right?
They're just holding a knife and they're like, I said we're gonna play fetch. The dogs are like, okay.
So
after, all of that is happening. Meanwhile, Charles Manson drove the other 3 members of the family who had departed the Spawn movie ranch with him to the Venice home of the Lebanese actor Saladin Nader. He then left them there and drove back to Spawn Ranch, leading them and the people at the LaBianca house to hitchhike home. Now, according to Linda Kasabian, Charles wanted his followers to murder Nader in his apartment, but she claims that she thwarted this murder by deliberately knocking on the wrong apartment door and waking up a stranger. The group abandoned the murder plan and left, but Susan Atkins defecated in the stairwell on the way out.
What the fuck?
Oh, just keeping it classy, Susan Atkins.
Like, what the hell did that even do? Like, Jeez. So, the following evening, Frank, Rosemary's son, returned home from Lake Isabella and was dropped off at the house. And, when he noticed all the shades in the windows were drawn, couldn't find his mother or his stepfather, they wouldn't answer the door, he obviously became very concerned.
Obviously.
And, yeah, so he called his older sister, Susan, and, basically told her, hey, our parents aren't picking up. What the fuck's going on? So Susan and her boyfriend picked up Frank from the hamburger stand that he was, you know, calling from. And they went to go check out the home together. And upon arriving, became further worried by the fact that Leno's boat was parked on the street instead of the driveway. So that just already looked kind of sus. And they felt this, you know, because it was just out of his character, and they gained entry to the house through the side door. And I think we can obviously figure out what happened if you'd like to go into detail.
Yeah. So in the kitchen, they saw the misspelled phrase "helter skelter" written in blood on the front of the refrigerator. Susan remained in the kitchen while her boyfriend and Frank went into the living room. In the living room, they found Leno bound, gagged, and stabbed to death. They immediately fled the house and called the police from a neighbor's home. Police officers responding to the call entered the home and subsequently discovered Rosemary LaBianca also stabbed to death in the master bedroom. Initially, the murders of Leno and Rosemary were not linked to the Tate murders. Their differences in lifestyle, circles of friends, and lack of any apparent connection, according to the LAPD, lack of any apparent connection. It's not like there was a murder literally yesterday where, you know, phrases were written on the walls and people's blood happened. It's not like that's a thing. That doesn't seem like it's a connection at all.
No. Nah.
No.
That's unlikely.
Nah. These people make me want to murder myself.
I don't.
So anyways, on August 12th, so the lack of any apparent connection were apparently important factors in the decision to split up the investigation. I will never not be mad about that decision. And on August 12th, 1969, the LAPD officially announced no link between the Tate and LaBianca murders. I hate them. Yeah.
I don't even know what to say to that. Like,
yeah.
Yeesh.
But don't worry, the killers would not be uncaught for long.
Right.
Why don't you go ahead and talk about what happened at the end of August 1969?
Right. So several members of the family were arrested for suspicion of auto theft, you know, just like how Charles Manson his whole fucking life, because there were just so many stolen cars at Spawn Ranch. And the charges were dropped and family members were released, but, you know, that's not the end of it. So Susan Atkins remained behind bars for questioning about her role in the murder of a music teacher, Gary Hinman.
Who we covered in the last episode.
Right.
Yeah.
So while in jail, she began boasting to fellow inmates about her involvement about the Tate murders, who were, you know, which was still unsolved. And eventually 2 of the inmates, Virginia Graham and Veronica Ronnie Howard, informed the prison officials about, you know, her talking shit.
They were like, hey, excuse me, officer, just guard, I need to get out of the cell really, talk to my lawyer real fast.
Right.
And the guard's just like, oh,
I have to.
Okay.
And then get out there like, look, some fucked up shit's going on.
Seriously, this bitch is talking about how she killed that pregnant lady. Like, this is crazy. We cannot be in the same cell with her. Please don't make us go back there.
Right. So, I'd like, you know, so while that shit went down, in December 1969, Adkins provided testimony before a grand jury about the Tate LaBianca murders in exchange for immunity from the death penalty.
Yep.
Yeah, so she snitched.
She snitched hard, but not as hard as Linda did, but we will get to that.
Yeah, we will get to that.
Charlie, who was already in jail for receiving stolen property and was also indicted on sexual charges. Charlie, who was already in jail for receiving stolen property, was also indicted on sexual charges. Now, at this point, family members Patricia Krenwinkel and Leslie Van Houten were also arrested and indicted for their part in the murders. Linda Casabian, who was present for both nights but did not participate in murdering the victims, immediately turned state's evidence in exchange for immunity.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is just what happens.
Here's a really funny thing. After they got arrested, Tex Watson backed off to Texas. He was like, "Nah, fuck this shit. I'm out."
Right. That's just what happens with a so-called murder family, you know? Like, once the shit hits the fan, it's every man for himself.
Hang on. I put this up because I was filming something the other day, and I needed a clean or a background that wasn't all true crime for the normal people stuff I was filming.
I gotcha. It looks lovely.
Keep your eye out on Snapchat for some cool stuff featuring your favorite bearded lady.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Not my Snapchat personally. Yeah. Those women, they ain't gonna rat on me. I'm their Jesus. I'm their personal Jesus. Just like that song that ain't come out yet.
Oh, Charles. Oh, Charlie.
What?
I don't even know what to say to you. Just wait until your future. Just, you know.
Wait until your future. I'm Jesus. I control the future.
Of course you do.
I like that my Charles Manson voice has gone from like, I'm Charles Manson, because like that was hurting my throat.
Right.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah. So what happened next?
Yep. The state of California tried Manson for the Tate and LaBianca murders with co-defendants. Leslie, Susan, and Patricia. Yeah, they basically just, you know, it was him. So
they also had to snag Tex back from Texas because he fucked right off.
Yep. So he got dragged back into it and was tried at a later date after being extradited from Texas. So the trial began July 15th, 1970. And this is what I just love so much, like, about this whole situation. Like, this is just a little random trivia.
Mm-hmm.
During this time, a reporter was supposed to be announcing, I think during the time Richard Nixon was supposed to be landing in Texas. And she was supposed to call like her company, like, hey, the president has landed. And they all said, no, fuck that story. That it's fucking Manson got caught, the murderers got caught, and now we're about to have a trial. So to me, it's like, it's a big deal when everybody just said, fuck the president. Charles Manson just got arrested.
I mean, to be fair, fuck Richard Nixon.
Yeah, fuck Richard Nixon. This is what he looked like. He was wearing fringed buckskins, his typical clothing that he would wear, because, he just
that picture
really needed to look like.
That picture is a lie. I'm not that short. They had me on my knees. I'm actually 7 feet tall.
Oh my gosh.
I am not that short. I just realized that this picture is like basically taken from that picture. Holy shit.
Right. Oh, well, shit.
I literally just realized that, and I've had this sitting on my shelf for like 2 years.
Oh my
That's
god.
hilarious.
That
Oh my
is
god.
hilarious.
Holy shit, that's funny.
Right.
Random revelations here at Chardonnay True Crime.
Oh, yes. So, in his lovely buckskins, what happened?
Well, on July 24th, 1970, the first day of testimony, Charlie appeared in court with an X carved into his forehead. Now, for any other case, like for Richard Ramirez, for example, I might have drawn a pentagram on the palm of my hand. But consider, just to be like, he had one of these and looked like a fucking moron. But considering what Charles Manson ended up doing with that X, absolutely zero interest in doing that whatsoever, even with eyeliner like I was planning on. No.
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 That was
absolutely
fucked.
not.
It's absolutely fucked.
Absolutely fucked. Now, he appeared in court with an X carved into his forehead, and his followers issued a statement from Manson saying, "I have X'd myself from your world." And the following day, Manson's co-defendants, Leslie Van Houten, Susan Atkins, and Patricia Krenwinkel, also appeared in court with X's carved into their foreheads. And this is the sort of thing that happened consistently during this trial. Manson would start humming a song. The girls would start singing it. Manson shaved his head. The girls, and not just the girls at the court, not just the girls on trial, but the girls who sat outside of the courthouse shaved their heads. Because, yeah, we will get into the girls outside of the courthouse.
Oh, dear.
Also, I just want to share one more picture. I'm sorry. I just want to share one more
Okay,
picture of Charles Manson in that buckskin outfit, mostly just because it amuses me. And it's like a pretty good picture, actually. I think they like touched it up or something, digitally, but like, there you go. That's him being led into court. And just look at how teeny tiny he is.
Right. He's compensating for something.
I swear to God, if I get haunted by Charles Manson after this for making fun of him, it was worth it.
It's absolutely worth it.
I'm gonna see him coming up. Shit out of the candlestick holder.
Why
again.
are you making fun of my shortness?
I'm like, because you're a little bitch,
right? Ooh, I know I'm a little bitch, but we're going to hell.
Yep.
At this point, I think we're going to double hell. We are going to double hell at this point.
You know what? I am fine with that. One of my most liked comments on TikTok was on someone else's TikTok, and they were like, when you get to hell and immediately look for like John Wayne Gacy, and then it's like the person going like, or something like that. And I was just like, "Ayo, where's Gary Ridgway? I just want to talk."
Right.
But like, seriously,
so
I just want to talk.
Ramirez. He needs a lovely slap in the face. Him and his ugly
Charles
teeth.
Manson? Where's Charles Manson? We
where is he?
Yeah,
we need to
where's
talk.
That little
absolutely
bitch ass at? Where's that little bitch ass at? He's teeny tiny. We could take him.
Absolutely.
Plus he was like super old when he died, so like we could totally take him.
Oh yeah. Yeah, totally.
Anyways, so yeah. Anyway, so do you want to talk about the girls who set up the vigil outside the courthouse?
I mean, not so lovely ladies. I'm not going to call them lovely because it's not. camped outside the courthouse, held a vigil on a street corner because they were excluded from the courtroom for being disruptive, for obvious reasons. And other members of the Manson family also
literally scream at the judge. It was ridiculous.
Right. Like, just fanatics. And so, and then they would also be carving X's into their heads. So it's just, they're just fucking chaotic. And then on one days, they would wear saffron robes to the trial, like some of the members, and saying if Manson was gay, they would immolate themselves. Why? A reference to monks and nuns in Vietnam who set fire to themselves to protest the Vietnam War. And it's like, oh my God. It's not that deep. It's just a really short, I can't find the clitoris man. Like, it's chill.
He's a total pick-me. He's a total pick-me guy. Like, literally, he's like, I'm not... Hang on.
Gonna bring him out? There you go.
I'm not like other guys. I'm Jesus Christ and the devil. Something that he would literally say, for the record. I'm Jesus Christ and the devil. I'm not like other guys. Oh, those other guys have driver's licenses and know where the clitoris is. Well, I think that's a myth. And as that I am Jesus Christ and also the devil, that's a myth.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, Charlie. Okay. What?
But, I said, I'm pretty sure the devil knows where the clit is, but come on.
Just because the devil is gay doesn't mean he doesn't know where the clit is.
He'll just go, it's right there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. That's it.
See that's it.
That's it. It's right there. All right, we're good. Gonna go back to whipping people.
I have a theory that pick me guys and girls are the children of Karens.
Yeah.
That's my theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So anyways, the state presented dozens of witnesses in the trial. However, its primary witness was Linda Casaban, who was present during the murders and provided graphic testimony of the murders, which she observed from outside the house. Personally, I don't know if I believe that she wasn't actually in that house. However, wasn't there, so I can't say for sure, But at the same time, Linda was, and just own up to it, bitch. Just own up to it, And she was also in the car. What?
Oh, well, just the fact that she was able to even describe the murders in general. It's like you had to have been there.
You had to seen it happen.
Right.
Anyways, she was, what was she like looking in the windows, just like, ooh, what's happening in there? But I'm not going to go inside.
It's like nobody does that.
No one believes you.
It's like, just fess up. Come on.
We get it. You were part of the Manson family. You were there at the murders and everything. Just at least be honest, not just with us, but with yourself. Bitch, you were in the room when Sharon Tate was fucking murked. Just admit it. Just fucking admit it, Anyways, I got a little fired up there for a second.
That's cool.
I mean, you're already like admitting to all of this. You may as well just admit that you were in the goddamn room.
Right.
Yeah, I was there. I didn't fucking murk her. But I was in the room unless she did murder her. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I was there,
I
but
get you.
like I didn't do anything because it was like really gross, and I didn't want to get blood on my new jeans that I found in an alleyway that Charlie said were blessed because the first time that I wore them, he put it in my butt.
Oh my god. She's
Definitely.
basically our friend.
Yeah. Definitely going to hell. Definitely going to hell.
We're in the third circle of hell at this point.
Yep.
So let's see how much further we can go.
They're gonna open a whole new circle for us, dude.
They are. I can just see it now. We go to the lovely fiery gates, and Satan's just like, I don't even know what to do with you fucks. Just get in the hole. I'll figure it out.
I'm going to cannonball into that hole. Anyways, so she was also in the car with Manson on the following evening when, according to her testimony, he ordered the LaBianca killings. Linda Casabian spent several days on the witness stand being cross-examined by the defendant's lawyers. And after testifying, she went into hiding for the next 40 years. Now, that's actually a true story. She was not heard of for about 40 years until she did an interview where she was hiding her face, but we're like, Linda, we know it's you. Like, Linda, sweetie, honey, we know it's you.
Right.
Just come on.
It's like the equivalent of the person like not even having a good disguise, just like putting on a mustache. I'm a completely different person. It's like we know it's you. Come on.
Yeah. Hang on. 1 second. Here it is. I'm not Linda Casabian. Still not Linda Casabian.
I guess you're not.
I'm still not Linda Casabian. Nope. Not at all.
Nope. I mean, look at that amazing sideways mustache. Like you can't possibly be Linda.
No, not Linda.
All right, carry on.
No, not me. All right, thank you. Have a good day.
All right, you too. Wait a minute. This mustache comes right off.
Oh God.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways.
We're getting slowly into the fourth circle.
It's worth it.
How much further we can go.
Worth it.
It is worth it.
I will go to my grave making fun of these stupid fucking hippies.
Put it on my tombstone.
And listen. I was raised by fucking hippies, okay? Like, my mother raised me around all of these artsy hippie types, and you know what? They were awesome. I loved them. But these fucking guys, they are the worst, and I hate them. And also, I just looked down at my my cults thing and realized that I accidentally put the mustache right on Jim Jones.
Oh my gosh. Perfect. It suits him. It suits him well.
I'm just going to leave that there for now. You know what? Jim has a mustache now. It's fine. Anyways, so immediately after the defense counsel rested their case, the three female defendants shouted that they wanted to testify. What did their attorneys do?
They advised the court in chambers that they opposed their clients testifying. You know, they just didn't want them. And
Smart.
they were wanting to testify that with the murders. So honestly, I think it was kind of a good move because it's like murders, but he still instigated it.
Yeah.
So the following day, Manson himself announced that he too wanted to testify, and the judge allowed it in the presence of a jury. And how did he state it?
Okay.
Yes, you can do it in character if you would like.
Obviously.
That's how you getting ready. I was like, I'm ready too.
Yeah. All right. So let me just pull up what he said. So he said, "These children that come at you with knives, they are your children. You taught them. I didn't teach them. I just tried to help them stand up. Most of the people at the ranch you call the family were just people that you did not want. I know this, that in your hearts and souls, you are as much responsible for the Vietnam War as I am for killing these people." What the fuck, Charlie?
Oh my God.
I can't judge any of you. I have no malice against you and no ribbons for you. But I think it is high time that you all start looking at yourselves and judging the light that you live in. My father is in the jailhouse. My father is in the system. No, he wasn't. For the record. He wasn't at this point. Just need to point that out. Anyway.
Oh, shit.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
I just thought it was really funny that your reaction to sneezing was, oh shit.
It's because it broke off my choker. That's why. I literally sneezed my choker off. But you know what? Oh well, I had this thing since high school. R.I.P. So
did it
go
break?
On, man.
Did it break?
Yeah, it broke.
Oh no!
I literally broke it by sneezing. I'm sure I could, but I've had it since high school, so it's okay.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh god,
Charles, it is hilarious.
Charles, I did that because I am Jesus.
Damn it.
Damn it, Charlie. Why would you do that? Because I'm
Manson,
Jesus.
You owe me a new one. Right? No. I guess this was one of his quote unquote miracles, I guess.
It was a miracle.
So go on. Go on, Manson. Okay. Go on with your speech.
Can I finish?
Yes.
My father is in the jailhouse. My father is in your system. My father is your system. I am only what you made me. Oh my God. I am only a reflection of you. You want to kill me? Ha! Ha 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 ha. I am already dead. Have been all my life. I have spent 23 years in the tombs that you have built. I don't know why he kind of turned into Foghorn Leghorn there, but you know what? I'm
It's like I say, what the hell is this shit?
I say, I say, my father is the jails. My father is the court system.
I love that the whole speech was just so...
You know what I noticed?
Like he wasn't making any points at all.
No, I mean, it's very much the way that Trump talks. But what I noticed about the speech is that it is all centered on himself. Yeah. He never once talks about anybody else. No. He just talks about himself. I. So.
Yep.
To break the eyes, would you like to talk about what happened next?
Yes. So after that very chaotic, nonsensical speech,
dumpster fire,
the judge offered to let him testify. Yeah, decided to let him testify before the jury, and Manson replied, "Oh, that's not necessary." Like, as if he just, like, dropped a mic or something. And then Manson told the female defendants that they no longer needed to testify. Right. Like, you didn't do, like, he's like the equivalent of the tuxedo mask meme, where it's like, I guess my job is done here, but you didn't do anything.
Yeah, seriously. Just, Charles, why?
Right. I'm not kink shaming. I'm kink asking why.
I'm kink shaming.
I am kink shaming too, but I'm also kink shame asking why.
Yeah, that too. You know what? I feel like kink shaming is allowed if someone is a murderer.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what happened in January?
January 25th.
Yes, so January 25th.
Yeah. Sorry.
Lovely time. The jury found Manson, Krenwinkel, and Atkins guilty for first-degree murder in all 7 of the murder in all 7 of the Tate and LaBianca killings. The jury found Van Houten guilty of murder in the first degree in the LaBianca killing. So everybody's basically fucked. So Manson and his co-defendants were found guilty, the same day. Under California law, a second trial or penalty phase before the same jury then began to determine sentencing. And, after 2 months, the jury agreed, that the prosecution wanted the death penalty. But then, it wasn't until March 29th that Manson, that they all basically got sentenced to death.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So, what about Susan?
Susan received the death penalty despite her initial agreement to testify for the prosecution. The prosecutors lost her cooperation in March 1970, 3 months before the case came to trial. After a brief meeting with Charlie in jail, she retracted her confession and declared that she had invented the story implicating him and Krenwinkel and Leslie before the grand jury. And we talked about how Tex Watson had headed back to his home in the state of Texas, but and he, was able to, he was able to fight the extradition for a little while before he finally got to, actually get sent back to California and be held accountable for his crimes. But what happened with that? Because that is a whole fucking thing.
He just went off his rocker, basically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, when he got back to California, he just regressed. Like, he stopped talking, he stopped eating, he dropped like over 55 pounds. He was more like in a childlike state. He even had to be admitted into a hospital for 90 days to be observed to determine if he was even able to stand trial. And then he stayed there until February 1970, where he was deemed able to stand trial, which to me, I'm kind of thinking, was that an act? Was he just acting out because he just didn't want to? Yeah, so it's like I don't have the answers for that.
Yeah, go ahead and continue with Tex.
Right. So, he was then convicted of 7 counts of murder. It's only 2.5 hours to determine that he was absolutely, and he was sentenced to the gas chamber.
Yeah.
Which,
Unfortunately, however, none of the defendants in these cases were ever actually executed. I know I'm going to get some shit for that comment, but I'm going to be perfectly honest. I am not completely opposed to the death sentence.
Yeah, because
it is my personal belief. It's my personal belief. I know that everybody has their own belief when it comes to the death sentence, but on a case-by-case basis, I think that the death sentence is really the best way to go.
Yeah, to
and
me, it just... Oh, yeah, continue.
No, I was just going to say, I've gotten a lot of shit from that, even from family members and everything, but that's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, like, to me, it just absolutely depends on the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm definitely, like, for it in certain cases. Like, I'm trying to find the actual case, but back in the area that I grew up in, there was actually a very controversial and hate-filled murder, which, you know, hopefully we can go into it at, like, you know, another episode. Absolutely. And eventually I think the people responsible actually did get the death sentence and actually got sentenced to death. And honestly, I was all for it, because I was like, they literally killed a man in cold blood just because he was of a different race. And I was just like, you know what? Go away. Like, make the world a better place. People like you don't need to exist.
No. Now, like I said,
because they're just going to kill again.
Yeah, they definitely are. But like I said, no Manson case defendants were ever executed. Their sentences were among those commuted to life imprisonment when the state of California temporarily outlawed the death penalty on February 18th, 1972, in the case of California v. Anderson.
Oh my.
In 1976, Leslie Van Houten's murder conviction in the Tate LaBianca trial was overturned by a state appellate court on the grounds that the judge Older erred in not granting her motion for a mistrial following the disappearance of her attorney, Ronald Hughes. Now, to use lawyer speak a little bit, we're going to sidebar for a moment to talk about Ronald Hughes. Do you mind if I take this?
Yeah, go for it. I'm all ears.
Ronald Hughes was among the first lawyers to meet with Charles Manson in December of 1969. Initially, he signed on as the attorney for Charles Manson, but was replaced by Irving Kanarick 2 weeks before the start of the trial. Hughes represented Leslie Van Houten, in the Tate LaBianca trial. He had failed the bar exam 3 times before passing and had never tried a case. He was a one-time conservative who was called the hippie lawyer due to his intimate knowledge of the hippie subculture, and that knowledge occasionally served his clients well. He was able to raise questions about Linda's credibility by asking her about hallucinogenic drugs, her beliefs in ESP, and her thoughts that she might be a witch, and her experiencing vibrations from Manson. Now, we are not saying that witches do not exist. We are just saying Linda Casaban was not one of them. Or sorry, Leslie Van Houten. Well, yeah, no, Linda Casaban. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I got mixed up. Anyways, so as the attorney for the defendant of Leslie Van Houten, he tried to separate the interests of his client from those of Charles Manson, a move that angered Charles and may have cost him his life. Now, he hoped to show that Leslie Van Houten was not acting independently, but was completely controlled in her actions by Charles Manson. And this strategy contradicted Charles Manson's plan to allow fellow family members to implicate themselves in the crime, clearing him of all involvement. Something that I'm going to go ahead and say it because I have had just enough wine to be brutally honest, and this is our last stream, so fuck it. Something that a very popular podcast about true crime has gone on the record and said that they believe that Charles Manson was not involved at all and that it was all of his followers and they just yes-anded him into murder. I'm not going to name the podcast, but
I know who you're talking about. I'm going to be honest too, because I'm almost done with my drink and I'm having hard Fireball whiskey, so I'm feeling brutally honest as well.
Love that for you.
I've never liked them.
I know.
Yeah, I have never liked them because a lot of them are very conservative, which I heavily disagree with, and they give me the equivalent of straight white cis male who do not know how to shut the fuck up.
Yeah. But
that's just my humble opinion. People don't have to agree with me, but that's just how I feel.
It's because they're from the comedy circuit. And I'm going to fucking say it because I've had enough to drink that I'm going to fucking say it. They are from the comedy circuit, and we know that the comedy circuit can be very misogynistic.
Very misogynistic, and they like to say edgy shit because they think it's
comedians. Even AFAB comedians who are cis AFAB women will sit there and say some of the most misogynistic shit you have ever heard in your life. And I have called them out on stage for it before.
Yep. This is just a friendly reminder, especially, in the field of comedy. Never punch down. Come on. No. Never punch down. It's not funny. There's a reason back in the day, jesters were able to poke fun at the king and get away with it. You punch up. You don't punch down.
No.
Or else it's not funny.
Or else you get fucking murked. Anyways, so I hate them.
Jeez.
Sorry. So 22 weeks into the trial, which included outbursts, the bizarre behavior from Charles Manson, the co-defendants, and all of that, the prosecution rested. Lawyers for the defendants stunned the courtroom by announcing that the defense also rested. Leslie, Susan, and wait, am I on the right spot?
Yeah, you're right.
And sorry. And Patricia immediately shouted that they wanted to testify, committing the murders on their own, that Manson had nothing to do with the crimes. But Ronald Hughes, he was like, no. He objected and stood up against Charlie's ploy, stating, I refuse to take part in any proceeding where I am forced to push a client out the window. After Manson made his rambling mess of a statement to the court, however, Hughes then told the women that they no longer had to testify. Judge Charles Older then ordered a 10-day recess to allow the attorneys to prepare for their final arguments, and Ronald Hughes later told a reporter that he was confident that he could secure an acquittal for Leslie Van Houten. Okay. However, on November 27th, 1970, Ronald Hughes decided to take a camping trip in a remote area near Sespe Hot Springs in Ventura County, California. Now, a lot of this stuff is taking place in basically the same area that I grew up. So Leslie Hot Springs is out near Ojai. It's a beautiful area, but, there's also like some fucking wilderness out there and shit, Shit happens in the wilderness. So according to James Fosher and Lauren Elder, who accompanied Hughes on his trip, heavy rains caused flash floods in the area and, had gotten their Volkswagen stuck in the mud. So James and Lauren decided to hitchhike their way out of there, while Ronald decided to stay in the area until November 29th. He was just like, you know what, fuck it. Like, I don't want to fucking go back. I've had to deal with these goddamn Manson family people for like too long now. I just need a goddamn break. And they were like, okay. But he was last seen by the campers on the morning of November 28th. They later told investigators that he was alone at the time and had briefly stopped to talk with them. He also appeared to be unharmed and was in the area that was away from the floodwaters. That is an important point. When court reconvened on November 30th, Hughes, failed to appear. Due to continued rainstorms, the Ventura County Sheriff had to wait 2 days before a search was launched. On December 2nd, Judge Older ordered the trial to proceed and appointed a new attorney, Maxwell Keith, for Leslie Van Houten. The women angrily demanded the firing of all of their lawyers and asked to reopen the defense, but Judge Older denied the request. Now, by week's end, Ronald Hughes had been missing for 2 weeks, and when court reconvened, Charles Manson and the women created a disturbance suggesting that Judge Older did away with Ronald Hughes, which again resulted in their being removed from the courtroom yet again, because this is not the first time they were like, the judge was like, get them the fuck out of here. They are annoying me.
Right.
Don't blame him. Now, over the following months, police conducted more than a dozen searches of the area where Ronald was last seen. And after receiving an anonymous tip in March of 1971, police also searched in the area surrounding the Barker Ranch in Inyo County, where Manson and his associates had previously lived. However, on March 29th, 1971, the same day the jury returned the death penalty verdicts against the defendants on all counts, Hughes' severely decomposed body was discovered by 2 fishermen in Ventura County. Again, where I grew up. Literally was born and raised in Ventura County. So, yeah.
It's a lovely area.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely it is. You picked me up in Ventura County last time I was in California.
Yep, I remember.
It's lovely. And I still need to take you to my favorite Mexican restaurant.
Yes, I would love that.
It is delightful. Anyways, so his body was found wedged between 2 boulders in a gorge. He was then later positively identified by dental x-rays, but due to the severe decomposition of his body, the cause and nature of his death was ruled as undetermined. Now, it's worth noting that while the people who were involved with the Tate and LaBianca murders were in jail during that trial, as we have mentioned before, plenty of them were still on the outside and were communicating with Manson and the others and were taking orders from them. Now, despite the cause of death not being known, it is not a stretch. Excuse me. It is not a stretch, in my opinion, to say that they very well could have had an involvement in his disappearance and subsequent death. Now, you actually read Helter Skelter over the last 2 weeks, so why don't you tell me what Vincent Bugliosi said in Helter Skelter about this?
He wrote that Sandra Good, an associate of Manson and a close friend of the of Lynette, claimed that Manson family members had and that Hughes was the first of the retaliation murders. In the afterward to the 20th century, version of the book, they also said, yeah, my bad. I'm slurring with my words. The whiskey's hitting me hard.
You've been drinking Fireball, bro. It's fine.
Yeah, and I went glug 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 like into it, but anyway.
2 shots.
Yeah, I poured a lot.
Vodka. Glug, 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 glug,
2
glug,
shots of vodka. That's one of my favorite memes. Oh my god.
Oh my god, me too. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so they claimed that they actually received an anonymous call in 1976 from a former Manson family that he actually was murdered by the family. So whether or not all of this is true, it's up for speculation, but I'm honestly not sure.
Hashtag facts.
Yes. Facts. Hashtag girl shit. finding bodies.
We got a comment here on YouTube from Johnny Mann saying, hi. Hi.
What's up, Johnny?
Hey.
Hope you're enjoying the show.
Yes. Enjoy us being drunk and talking about Charles Manson.
Right.
Yeah, you know what? I'll agree with Johnny in this. There is no family, only so-called family. I'll agree with Johnny on that one.
Very true.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. So all right. So attorney Stephen Kay, who helped Bugliosi prosecute members of the family, stated that while he is on the fence about the family's involvement in Hughes' death, Charles Manson had open contempt for Ronald Hughes during the trial. Stephen also added the last thing that Manson said to Hughes was, I don't ever want to see you in the courtroom again. And then he was never seen alive again.
Yeah, that's just that kind of like makes it look a little suspicious that they were
little sus. Yeah, that's not a good look for you there, Charlie.
Yeah. So meanwhile, while all that shit's going on, Van Houten's first retrial ended in a hung jury. Van Houten lived with a former writer for the Christian Science Monitor, while they were released on bond for a few months. And then they were she was tried a third time in 1978 and convicted of first murder after their jury rejected her defense of using hallucinogenic drugs, which
absolutely, yeah,
still not an excuse for murder.
No, we got another comment from Johnny. All the way, absolutely, you are 100% right. System of a Down is fucking awesome.
Oh yes,
fucking love System of a Down.
Right.
Oh my god, I rediscovered BYOB the other day and was just like, oh my god, I'm like back in middle school. This is the greatest day of my life.
Why do prisoners by the war? Why did they always send the poor?
Yeah. 100%. Anyways, so these guys, they're all sentenced to death, which, obviously it was changed to life in prison, but we're gonna get into just what has happened
to each member.
Yeah,
Let's see member. Which circle of hell they all go into.
Let's figure it out. So you want to start us off with Tex
Watson.
Texas Watson.
So in 1987.
Yeah.
Suzanne LaBerge, I hope I'm saying, visiting him in prison.
Yep.
And she was actually the daughter of Rosemary LaBianca. And she attended, his parole hearing in 1990, telling the parole board that because of Watson's newfound Christianity, because apparently when you find Jesus, that means something. Who gives a fuck? He was a new man, no longer dangerous, and should be released because Jesus is the answer, as they fucking say. But so Sharon Tate's mother, Morris Tate, and other members of the LaBianca family made it very clear that she was not speaking for the rest of the victims' families for obvious reasons. And Watson was denied parole 13 times. You think he'd get it the first fucking few times, and still remains same minister, earned a degree, got married. Who the fuck would want to marry him?
Oh, I know this. I know the answer to this. Well, partially because I wrote the episode, but I know the answer to this. Her name was Kristen Jones Svege. I don't know. It's Svege.
Right.
They were married from 1979 to 2003.
And they had 4 kids.
4 of them.
4 of them.
That's too many.
4.
All right, Johnny's got a couple of interesting comments here. Too much politics behind
It
that
is
parole.
too many.
None will ever be released because of public opinion. Agreed.
Yeah.
He also says that Tex was the snake in all this, hiding behind his cross now. Again.
Oh, absolutely
agreed.
It's
Absolutely agreed.
That just kind of reminds me of like,
most know Charlie as the devil and the worst possible guy out there, but nobody barely knows Tex Watson. Absolutely. Here's an interesting fact. I'm a huge fan of John Waters movies. John Waters has made a career on being as, I don't know, crass and, whatever as possible. And in I think it was Pink Flamingos, he has Divine walk by a wall that says "Free Tex Watson" spray painted on the wall. And that's always just kind of like, it's always kind of irked me. I've met John Waters a few times over the years. I've never brought it up with him, but the next time I meet him, I may just be like, bro, what the fuck?
Right. I mean, the movie role was very controversial, but
yeah.
Never mind the eating dog shit, but Tex Watson shit. That's the real shit we need to be looking at.
Anyways, so that brings us to Susan Atkins. Susan Atkins released.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll do Susie.
Did you want to get to
Susie. So Susan Atkins released an autobiography in prison in 1977. From 1974 onward, she, like Tex Watson, was a born-again Christian after she apparently saw a vision of Jesus in her cell. She became active in prison programs, taught classes, received 2 commendations for assisting in emergency health interventions with other inmates. She was married twice in prison, once to a man named Donald Lee Lejeune, who had been married, I am not joking, 34 times before. And they say that the gays getting married is ruining the sanctity of marriage.
Oh no, we can't ruin these 34 times, Susan
was literally wife number 35. Fuck off.
Right.
Anyways, he divorced her when he wanted to get married again.
Dude, you need to calm down. Your name's fucking Donald. Come on. Nobody wants to scream that.
The dick is not that good. Okay? Right. It's not. So her second marriage was to James W. Whitehouse, who was a graduate of Harvard Law School. He graduated Harvard and then represented her in both 2000 and 2005 and ran a website dedicated to her legal representation. During her 2000 parole hearing, Sharon Tate's sister, Deborah Tate, read a statement written by their father, Paul, which said, in part, 31 years ago, I sat in a courtroom with a jury and watched with others. I saw a young woman who giggled, snickered, and shouted out insults. Even while testifying about my daughter's last breath, she laughed. My family was ripped apart. If Susan Atkins is released to rejoin her family, where is justice? Now, I would like to make a quick personal comment here. When I was about 13 or 14, I used to go to this coffee shop in Ventura County where I was raised. Now, mind you, a lot of the stuff has happened in Ventura County, but there is a very big naval base out there. Sharon's father was a he was like in the Navy. He was like big like head guy. I don't know. Anyways, he was like pretty big in the Navy. So this guy and I are talking at this coffee shop, and he's much older than I am. And I'm like 13. So I honestly have no idea how old this guy probably was. But, anyways, he's telling me about his time in the Navy. And he's telling me about how, you know, he's in the Navy, and this guy comes in. He's a higher up, and he goes, okay, so my daughter needs a date to this like Navy function thing. And, everyone's just sort of like, oh god, the guy's daughter needs a date. Like, everyone's super uncomfy. And finally, this guy like steps up and he's like, I'll do it. And so, you know, everyone's like, oh, you're a brown noser, you're a brown noser. And he shows up at this function, and it's fucking Sharon Tate there, you know? And he gets to spend the whole evening with this gorgeous woman who was like one of the sweetest people he had ever met. He told me some stories about her and just how nice she was. And it just makes me feel a lot worse for her and for the family, you know? So I get where Deborah's coming from and where Paul is coming from when he wrote this statement that Deborah read. Like, I get it. But anyways, in April 2002, Susan Atkins told an LA Times reporter of her work to discourage teenagers from idolizing Manson and her hope of someday leaving prison to live in Laguna Beach. Unfortunately for her, that hope would never happen. Because on June 1st, 2005, Susan Atkins had her 17th parole hearing. This resulted in a 3-year denial. She was given less than 6 months to live and subsequently requested a compassionate release from prison. I remember when this was happening.
Mm-hmm.
In June, her attorney, Eric P. Limpel, stated that her condition had deteriorated to the point that she was paralyzed on one side, could only talk a little bit, and could not sit up in bed without assistance. The hearing was attended by various family members and victims. Family members of the victims. God, I've been drinking too much. Anyways, including Deborah and members of Jay Sebring's family, and they requested that her parole be denied, and she again received a 4-year denial. In April 2008, it was revealed that Susan Atkins had been hospitalized for more than a month with an undisclosed illness that was subsequently reported to be terminal brain cancer. One leg had been amputated, and Susan died on September 24th, 2009 at the Central California Women's Facility in Chowchilla. A prison spokesperson announced to reporters that her cause of death was listed as natural causes, and her husband, James Whitehouse, subsequently released a statement stating that her last whispered words were, "Amen."
Oh my
All
God.
right. So Johnny's got a couple comments here for us. Johnny says, they all changed their stories besides Charlie. Each one of them went from laughing and skipping with joy to Charlie made me do it. And each time their stories got more and more sympathetic to them. Geez, if we go down that path, look at Manson's childhood. That's true. We talked about Manson's childhood in episode 1. It was fucked.
Right.
And excuse me. He says that Tex knew Wojciech Fryczowski from a bad drug deal, and Cielo Drive was a Hollywood drug den and porn den of the rich. Maybe while Terry was living there, but Sharon was 8 months pregnant. I don't see her doing that kind of stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, do you want to tell us about what happened with Patricia Krenwinkel?
Patricia. So she was at first very loyal to the family.
Of course.
And, you know, obviously, you know, and eventually she, for obvious reason, distanced herself from them because, like I said before, it's once shit that hits the fan, it's always every man for himself, as we've seen with the previous. She maintained a perfect prison record, received a bachelor's degree, is active in both AA and NA. She writes poetry, plays guitar, played on the prison volleyball team, gives dance lessons, and has been denied parole every single time she was up for it. So she's considered one of the longest incarcerated women in the California penal system and has been continuously incarcerated for 51 years. And my gosh,
It's a disaster.
She was actually granted parole. 2020. See where this goes. I'm actually kind of anxious on what's going to happen. So, stay tuned.
We'll see. We will see.
Yep, we will see. So, would you like to conclude with Manson himself?
You know what? I'm going to go with Manson, but there is actually one person that I forgot to include in this. Now, she was not involved with these murders, but I feel like it is extremely important to talk about Squeaky Fromm. But give me 2 seconds because she's out of prison, for the record. Squeaky's out of prison, and I think it's important to talk about her and about what is going on with her state of mind and what she's done since the rest of all of these people, so I'm just gonna really quick just add in some stuff about Squeaky because I think that it's important. Muy importante. So, do you want to go ahead and read that stuff about Squeaky that I just added to the notes right there?
Hold on, let me see.
Yeah.
Okay. So, September 5th, 1975, lovely morning. Squeaky went to Sacramento's Capitol Park, apparently to plead with President Gerald Ford about the plight of the California redwoods, dressed in a red robe and armed with a fucking semi-automatic pistol. Why?
Yeah.
So the pistol's off. That she had to the bathroom floor. She refused to cooperate with her own defense during her trial, despite claiming that she was not determined to kill the guy. She was eventually life sentence under a 1965 law that made attempted assassinations of the president a federal crime. So, Attorney Keyes, I hope I'm saying that right, Keyes, KS, recommended severe punishment because she was clearly full of hitting him in the face. Really fucking hilarious because she just proved him right. She told the press that she came to get life, just not just my life, but clean air, healthy water, and respect for creatures and creations. Like, oh my God, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
So, in 1979, she was transferred out of the Federal Correctional Institution for attacking a fellow inmate with a hammer, which, my God, stop proving people right. And then December 23rd,
Lynette.
right. Yeah, so December 23rd, 1987, she actually escaped from prison in an attempt to meet Manson, who had testicular cancer.
Apparently.
Which, apparently. And then she was captured 2 days later in Fort Worth. And she just kept pledging her allegiance to Manson. They actually wrote in Helter Skelter that she and Good were the only members of the Manson family who had not renounced him. Like, everybody else just said, fuck Manson, except, them.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually told a reporter, the curtain is going to come down on all of us. And if we don't turn everything over to Charlie immediately, it will be too late. Like, this, she's clearly unhinged.
Keep going. It gets more unhinged.
But she could only waive the hearing and apply for release at a later date. She waived her right to request a hearing and was required by federal law to complete a parole application before one could be considered. Then she was granted it in July 2008, but was not released because of the extra time added to her sentence for the prison escape in 1987. And then she was released on parole. Which, okay. For boyfriend. Yeah. God, just imagine being told, like, on public television, like, fuck you, I'm still in love with this gross guy who doesn't know where the clit is.
That's a lie. There's no such thing as the clit.
Oh my God.
That's because the only reason I don't know where it is because there's no such thing.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So let's get on to the man himself. Let's find out what happened to Charles fucking Manson.
Charles fucking Manson.
Let's get over this shit. All right. Charlie, in prison, he would give some interviews where it was revealed that the X that he had carved into his forehead had been altered into a swastika.
Gross.
Yeah. Because of fucking course it had.
Right.
According to a thread of replies on a question on Quora, because I use the internet like every other fucking person to research the shit that I'm writing about. Anyways, he had some ties to the AB, but for the most part, people were sort of dismissive of him. They were, when he'd start rambling, they'd be like, yeah, okay, whatever, Charlie, go talk to someone else,
Right.
However, another person on the same board said late in his later life, the commenter would sometimes see him when he went to go visit a friend. And once Charlie asked him to look up something for him, and the next time he went to see his friend, he told Charlie the results of what he had looked up. He said he was a quiet guy, but despite this, Charlie had gotten a reputation for pushing people's buttons. Surprise, surprise.
Right.
So, he apparently harassed a fellow inmate about his religious beliefs because this guy was apparently a Hare Krishna. And the other inmate, by the way, he did this in the hobby shop of the prison, which is basically like it's like where the like wood shop, basically. At least back then. But anyways, so he does this. He decides to pick a fight with this guy about his religious beliefs, Hare Krishna. And the other inmate decided to douse Charlie with paint thinner because he'd had a fucking enough of his shit. You know what? I don't blame him. And the two, like I said, were in the hobby shop, and then he lit a match and fucking set Charlie on fire. And you know what? I gotta say, kudos to that guy for having the balls to actually fucking do it.
Right.
And not only that, Charlie sustained third-degree burns to 18% of his body, including his scalp and hands, but no charges were ever filed against the other prisoner because it was decided that it was done in self-defense. And the deputy district attorney said it would be a waste of time and effort to pursue this case any further, and that it seemed unlikely that we could get a conviction.
Yep.
Love that. Love that.
I'm just sad that it didn't happen sooner, but.
Now, despite all of that, he did manage to have friendships and pen pals outside of prison. He was transferred from one prison to another for safety and medical concerns over the years, and he made art that he would send to people on the outside of prison, including weird little stuffed animals that he made out of cloth and strings.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's fucking weird. If you ever go to the Museum of Death in Hollywood, which I highly recommend when they reopen, you can see some of that shit there.
Interesting. Like, I've been before. I just didn't.
They got that whole Charles Manson room. Oh, don't Google Charles Manson stuffed animals, because apparently there's actually stuffed animals of Charles Manson, and that's upsetting.
That is. So.
Okay, here we go. This is what I'm looking for. All right. So, yeah, he would make. This is from TMZ, apparently. Oh, wrong button. Here we go. He'd make shit like this out of like string and shit, and then send it to people on the outside. I'll say this: it's creative.
I mean, I guess it looks. Yeah, I will say it. It looks cool, but like,
it's creative. You know, I'll give him that.
Yeah.
Anyways, in 2010, it was reported that he was caught with a cell phone in 2009 and had been contacting people in California, New Jersey, Florida, and British Columbia. A spokesperson for the California Department of Corrections stated that it was not known if he had used the phone for criminal purposes, and he also recorded an album of acoustic pop songs with additional production by Henry Rollins. Only 5 copies were ever pressed. 2 belong to Henry Rollins, while the other 3 are presumed to have been with Manson, but the album was unreleased. And I have to wonder, after he died, what happened to that fucking album?
Right.
On November 17th, 2014, Charles Manson got engaged to 26-year-old Afton Elaine Starr Burton while in prison. He got a marriage license on November 7th, and Burton had been visiting Manson in prison for at least 9 years. So since she was 17, she had been visiting him since she was 17 years old. That is disgusting.
That is disgusting.
Yeah. She maintained several websites that claimed his innocence. However, when it was revealed that Starr wanted to marry him to get the rights to his body after he died, he called off the engagement. Speaking of him dying, he died from cardiac arrest resulting from respiratory failure brought on by colon cancer on November 19th. Now, 3 people stated their intention to claim his estate and his body. His grandson, Jason Friedman, stated that his intent to take possession of his remains and personal effects despite his pen pal, Michael Channels, claiming that he had a right to Manson's body and personal effects. Well, his friend Ben Gurecki also claimed that Charles had a will that gave him everything. And then there was another guy who claimed that he was the son of Charles Manson. So in 2012, CNN ran a DNA match to see if Friedman and Roberts were related to each other and found that they were not. But according to CNN, 2 prior attempts to match Roberts' DNA with genetic material from Charles Manson failed, but the results were reportedly contaminated. In 2018, the Kern County Superior Court in California decided to favor Friedman in regard to Manson's body, aka his actual fucking grandchild. Friedman had Manson cremated, and as of February 7th, 2020, Channels and Friedman still had petitions to California courts attempting to establish the heir of his estate. And at that time, Channels was attempting to force Friedman to submit DNA to the court for testing. And that is the end of Charles fucking Manson.
Charles fucking Manson.
This fucking
That was
guy.
a roller coaster.
Yeah. That fucking guy. Huh.
That fucking guy.
So the next time we cover this, which won't be for a long fucking time because I'm aggravated.
Right.
The next time we cover this, it will be a full-on season on our new podcast. Well, not new podcast, on our podcast, where we will be able to go more in depth like we kind of did today. Sorry for taking up so much time, CM.
No, you're good. I'm going to Denny's after this.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I thought you were going to Dave & Buster's.
We were going to, but Mark's ID hasn't come back in the mail yet, so he might get kicked out.
All right, that makes sense.
Yeah, so we're just gonna go to Denny's. We're gonna do Dave & Buster's later.
Hell yeah. All right, so as it is, you know, Charles Manson, he was a product of his environment. He handled things as wrong as it is possible to do so. And at the end of the day, fuck that guy.
He's like the stable for true crime, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I feel like I feel like this was a good case to end the stream on. And our next case, Henry Lee Lucas, is going to be an incredible case to start the podcast on. And until we start the podcast, CM, do you have anything you want to say?
Be safe out there and watch out for the no-no list. Would you like to show the no-no list?
Absolutely. So these are the names on the no-no list. Tommy, Todd, Richard, Rodney, David. I did not update this, but Adolf, Charlie, and who was the last name on the no-no list? Who was the last person we covered?
Oh my God. I feel like
I don't remember. I know, me too.
We got a lot of names we need to update.
There's a lot of names we need to update. So keep an eye out for people who have names off of the no-no list. And don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. And until we start uploading the podcast, keep an eye on our Instagram.
Hashtag girl shit.
Hashtag girl shit. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
Goodbye.